guest probably terrified you as Judge Doom in Who Framed Roger Rabbit when you were way too young to see that movie. And then he made you wish that you too had an Uncle Fester, but you don't. Ladies and gentlemen, please turn up the applause to 1.21 gigawatts for Dr. Emmett Brown himself, Christopher Lloyd!
Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you. So, how well? Any questions? I hope so. All right.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so this is actually, my mom wanted me to ask you this. She was a huge fan of Taxi.
What's the question?
She wanted to know, in terms of your character, what was going on with that character? How did you play him the way you did?
Which character from
Taxi? Yeah.
Iggy? Iggy! Reverend Jim? Well, it sort of comes out in a way in the episodes is that he had a certain vulnerability towards getting high. And there was an episode where I'm at Harvard, and there's some kids in the room in the dorm, and they're all kind of having a good time, and this thing gets passed around, of which I know nothing about. And, okay, I tried it, and that's end of story. From then on, I got really, the character really got into pot, and maybe some other things, and kind of burned out some brain cells in time. And so, I kind of assumed he slipped out of Harvard onto the streets and became kind of a 60s bumming around kind of guy. And he grew older, had trouble finding employment. He was a bit brain dead, and eventually the taxi company, Louis and the others, saw him out in the street. He acquired this name or reputation as being a bit of a Reverend Jim. So they asked him to come in and help, and to marry Lotka to a woman, American woman, so that Lotka could get his citizenship papers. And then they just kind of had me around, and I became a taxi driver. And you know the rest, those who know the show.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd!
Yeah.
That show about the cows, that was my favorite. You and Danny Perlman were there on that show. Oh, sorry, he used his maiden name then. My question is about probably one of your greatest movie roles of all time. The famous doctor you played, who had an affair with one of his patrons and was being blackmailed by Mr. Body. And I never quite understood the end of that one. I seem to jump around quite a bit.
I can see you haven't recovered yet. That's great.
Okay, my question is, by the way, that was a plum roll. Don't do that to me. My question is, with the 30th anniversary coming up with that movie, is there anything in the works, some special release, Blu-ray special?
From
Blue. It's Blue.
From Clue?
Yeah.
I don't remember any of my lines offhand. I will say, how many of you saw Clue? It's funny because when it came out in the US, it didn't have like a huge success. They love it in England and I guess here. What I remember about Clue was such an extraordinary cast. You know, when you start out, I started out in the theater, and the ideal was to have an ensemble, a group of actors who worked together as a company, and that was certainly the ideal. All those people in Taxi were wonderful performers, and I felt so fortunate to be included among them, and we had a lot of fun. And so I'm glad you asked that question because it was a wonderful show.
Well, thank you for coming here today, Mr. Lloyd.
Something like that.
Hi there.
Hi.
Welcome to Ottawa.
Thank you. It's my first time. There'll be many more.
Me too. So when Back to the Future came out, 2015 was like so far in the future.
What was that?
When Back to the Future first came out, 2015 seemed so far away. But now it's almost here. And some companies are like Nike's making the shoes, and there's hoverboards, and I'm wondering if there are any technologies from the movie that you would like to see in our modern day.
Well, I think there are many people out there working on a hoverboard, which would be kind of cool. I don't know how, but I'm sure it will happen someday. You know, I don't think there's anything in the film that can't happen someday. You know, I mean, even time travel. Who knows? Who knows? You know, we're about to create energy by way of fusion. Who would have thought? You know, it'll change the world.
That's my favorite, is the garbage, running cars with garbage.
Yeah. Flush capacitor and all that stuff. Great Scott! That's all. And then the sneakers that self-tie. What else do we have? And that weird thing out of my head that could, you know, think and perform in ways mysterious. Maybe that'll be happening someday. They can now hook you up. They can now hook you up. I just read the other day with electrodes and things attached to your brain, and you can signal with your brain, and your signal will be transmitted to something out there that will make something happen.
I've seen that with remote helicopters.
Right. Yeah. So someday all the technology and futuristic technology in Back to the Future will be passé. Forget about it.
Thank you.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi.
So you've done so many great roles. I was just wondering, for you, when was the moment you knew you were going to be acting? That was going to be your career for life, when you had made it, I guess.
I guess around 12, 13. I hadn't really thought whether I'd be an actor or not, but I noticed I was kind of a quiet, withdrawn person when I was a kid. I didn't communicate well. I found everything that was happening around me pretty intimidating and scary, especially other guys, you know, in the school and etc. And I somehow, and I felt very defenseless. I didn't know how to protect myself and take care of myself. began to get the sense that if I could make people smile, they wouldn't kill me. You know, and it happened without any big thought on my part. It was just a way of survival. And then I became aware that, you know, in a way, it was a bit of that. I didn't feel great, I didn't feel secure. But if something I did, maybe not even something I said, amused people by looking at me and saying, you know, even if I just said, what an idiot, you know, at least I felt I got out of the situation alive. And as time went on, I kind of carried that into the idea of acting. Since I kind of attained that knack by way of survival. And I started, by the time I was 13 or 14, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Awesome, thanks.
All right.
First off, Mr. Lloyd, I wanted to thank you for being such an inspiration to so many people who have gone on into the realm of science education.
Oh, thank you.
Doc Brown is fantastic that way. My favorite film in the trilogy was Part 3, Back to the Future Part 3. What was it like doing the big train sequence with Mary Steenburgen and Michael J. Fox?
What was the Uncle Ray?
What was it like doing the train sequence in Part 3 with Michael J. Fox and Mary Steenburgen? Like when you were on the train trying to get back to 1985?
Well, Back to the Future 3 has always been my favorite of the sequels. It was a Western. I mean, Westerns are fun. You have shoes, you have horses, you're riding, you shoot people. All of that is fun. And in Back to the Future 3, I had a romance, like you say, the Mary Steenburgen. It was my first real screen romance, and the last one. And then there was that steam engine. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to get near or on or a steam engine. A steam engine. I mean, these things were enormous, with all the gears and wheels and the steam coming out of the gauges. They're extraordinary. They're dinosaurs, but sometimes they have a preserve in various places where you can go and take a ride through the Rocky Mountains or something. It's worth it to see these things operate. So that was a lot of fun. And Mary Steenburgen was great. It was great casting. We've kind of had a lifelong infatuation. That's all, but we really enjoyed each other's company, and that was great. And there was something else you asked me.
Well, I was just wondering, what was its really terrifying experience having to move along on the train there when it was going so fast and about to blow up?
Yeah, it got your attention. But it was also kind of exciting. I mean, I had times when I'm hanging on the side of the train, and it was going along, fast enough so it looked like it was going fast, maybe 30, 35 miles an hour. And it's kind of every kid's dream, It's like, where do you get a chance to do that kind of thing, And so that was a lot of fun. There was a scene where I'm chasing the train to get on it. And they said, just chase the train, pull up close to it, but the stunt man will do the actual grabbing hold of the train and getting on it. And I remember, riding was, I'd done a lot of riding, so that was easy. but it was exciting galloping along the side of the train, and the handle to the train was right there, and I just wanted to grab it and pull myself off, but I didn't. You know, I just thought if it didn't go well, it would be a mess. So I resisted, but it was a lot of fun, and I do remember I had a cowboy hat on, and it took a lot of time. We did a few takes, and it took a lot of time to get the train going, to get the horse, meal, to get all that coordinated. And if it didn't work well, it took a long time to back the train up, go over the, it was a lot of, it took a long time to retake, and of course a lot of money out of the producer's pockets. So I was racing along, and my hat came off. And we had to start all over again. And I remember the stuntman saying to me, something to the effect, a real cowboy doesn't lose his hat. That's what I said, and I took note. It didn't happen again.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Lloyd. At the end of May, there's a movie coming out called A Million Ways to Die in the West.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
At the end of May, there's a movie coming out called A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Yeah.
In this film, you have a cameo as
That's
Dr.
right.
Emmett Brown. You're reprising the role. I was just wondering if you could speak about how that came about and what it's like to reprise the role in general when you have opportunities, be it through video games.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear all that.
Sure. What's it like?
Can you come forward? I'm having the same trouble everywhere.
What's it like
I hear these things, but they don't effectively.
What's it like to reprise the role of Dr. Emmett Brown when you have the opportunity to do so?
I kind of love it. In this movie, what's 100 Ways to Die in the West? That's premiering next week, I think, maybe. It's such a short shot of Doc in the West, and it's not expected. It's like it happened maybe during Back to the Future 3 during the story then, and I love it. I mean, that was really, it's 30 seconds at the most, but it's very well timed, and it's a perfect little reprise, and I enjoy that. I wish they'd do another one. Back to the Future, It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do. And if it's well thought out and all that, I love doing that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just because it helps me.
I'm a really big fan of Back to the Future, and I'm wondering, how is it like to work with Michael J. Fox?
How it was like?
How is it like to work with Michael J. Fox?
Oh, Michael J. Fox. He's wonderful. I don't know how many of you are aware that another actor played the role of Marty for the first 6 weeks that the film was shot. And a very good actor, and I can't call his name at the moment. But I had no idea that suddenly Michael J. Fox was going to be, that he was going to change overnight. We were shooting with this other actor, and suddenly it was announced at lunchtime on the set that everybody was making a change. 6 weeks into the shoot, it's very rare to have a change made that late on the shooting. I was so worried about it because I thought, I really struggled to do what I had to do in those 6 weeks. It was the first of the sequels, and I was kind of insecure. I wasn't sure whether I was nailing it or not, and I thought, we're going to do it again. In order to do that 6 weeks again, I don't know. I hope I can pull it off. And Michael came on, and for chemistry, we never had to think about it, work for it, or worry about it. The chemistry was just there. And we'd be on the set, and we were Doc and Marty together. And then moving on, Michael is just such a deeply wonderful, gracious, courageous person. He has Parkinson's, and he just moves on. I was a guest last year. He had a new television series last year. I don't recall the title. I was a guest on it. He just, in spite of his infirmities and limitations because of Parkinson's, he just says to hell with it. I'm going to do what I do, and it's just great.
So you had a cameo in Malcolm in the Middle as Hal's dad?
Malcolm in the Middle. That was a long time ago. No, me? I never had a cameo on Malcolm in the Middle.
Am I thinking of a person?
What did he say?
Can anyone confirm this quickly? He was? Okay.
I mean, you may be right, because I forget these things.
Okay, so my question was, what was it like tickling Bryan Cranston?
Tickling what?
Bryan Cranston? Bryan Cranston?
Bryan Cranston?
Bryan Cranston? He's in Breaking Bad. It wasn't Breaking Bad. Bryan Cranston.
I'm not following. Sorry. What was it like?
Tickling Bryan Cranston.
Tickling?
Yeah,
Tickling Bryan
Cranston.
I wish I remembered. I don't think I did. Man in the Middle. Anything else?
So you were in with the prank for the hoverboards recently?
Yes.
So how did the company when did this start? You kind of getting in on the prank?
The hoverboard. You mean this last thing?
Yeah.
This kind of phony thing. It was just, I had nothing to do with creating the idea. They had the idea this would be kind of fun, and I think it was kind of fun. And so we put together this scenario where I have discovered how to make a hoverboard that actually works. But I haven't really. This is just a con job, and then there's a sequel to that, but I apologize. And I apologize for this. That I got took into this and all that. But I do say in the apology that if it inspired one person, maybe you, somebody to go out there and figure out how to make a hoverboard, it would have been worth it. So it was a lark. It was just a spoof, just for fun. But a lot of people were disappointed that it didn't turn out to be real. I apologize. Is everybody in the back there
Hi there. Eric Stoltz was the other actor.
Eric Stoltz was the other actor, who incidentally, his being recast with Michael was not a reflection on Eric Stoltz. He's a wonderful actor. He's done so many great roles and great work. The producers just decided he didn't have a kind of innate comic sense. They had to have that, so that's why they went to Michael. It wasn't because Eric Stoltz was not cutting it. He just didn't innately have the kind of comic flair that Michael did.
You can really see that in his, they actually included some of the scenes on the Blu-ray, so you can actually see the different tone that he had. But my question is more towards Man on the Moon. You did with Jim Carrey. You kind of played yourself as on the set of Taxi.
Right.
The way the actors portrayed it was somewhat of a disdain for an Andy Kaufman. How much of that was, just added for the film, and how much of that was true?
Some of Laka, Andy Kaufman's work that's portrayed in the film, I wasn't in Taxi yet to see, but from what I understand, it was very accurate. And Jim Carrey, I thought Jim Carrey had such a persona. I mean, I was, be on the set, and he had in his eyes, you saw Andy Kaufman. I mean, he just really, really found Andy in himself, and I thought he did a wonderful job. But I don't think anything was fictionalized in there. I think they were very, specific about recreating exactly what happened. Is that your question?
Yes, that was. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Lloyd.
Hi.
My name's Eddie Spaghetti. Eddie Spaghetti.
Eddie Spaghetti?
Yeah. And first of all, I gotta say thank you for making my childhood awesome. Because I loved watching your movies all the time when I was a kid. And I mean, I have this unwritten rule that if I watch a movie that I'm not really too sure about, but I see your name in the credits, I'm kind of guaranteed to get something really good out of it, at least. So,
what was the question?
What the question?
No, I'm sorry. I apologize, but my hearing isn't perhaps the greatest, and everything the sound gets kind of blurred in the space.
Yeah, for sure. So my question is, with the third movie, Back to the Future, the scene at the very end when you're standing on the train that you built and you're with your family and stuff, there's this weird thing that one of your kids does in the background. And a lot of people noticed it after the letterbox version came out because they could see the whole picture. But one of your kids basically looks at the camera and mentions towards it and then points at his dingle-dangle. So what happens is that your kid, one of the kids behind you, Vern, is standing there and you're talking to Marty and you're saying the future hasn't been written yet, but you're gonna make it what it is. And then the kid looks at the camera and he goes like that, and then he points at his crotch. And I was wondering, what does that mean? Is that a mention to the camera to move in? Is that a stop?
Are you serious?
It's honestly in there. If you watch it, you'll notice it. He motions to the camera, and then when the camera stops panning in, he points at his crotch and then he laughs. And I always wondered, is he telling the camera to move in, stop, or is he saying, move in, hurry up, Mr. Zemeckis, I gotta go to the bathroom?
Probably the latter. But I'll tell you, I'm gonna find that kid. It's probably, I'm gonna bring him, just have a little discussion, we'll talk about it.
No, I just...
That's very interesting. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you again?
I've seen you before.
I know, we got that great picture yesterday, which got about 60 likes on Facebook, so thank you.
Okay.
My question is about Back to the Future and the character progression of Doc. Because in the first movie, he was very emotionless, I found. But by the third, you said earlier, he had a romance and he was hugging Marty. And did you like the way the character progressed over the three movies?
Yes, I did. I thought the writers, you know, it's really tough to come out with the first of a series of films and live up to it in the second and the third. You know, usually you see the first, and somehow the second, the sequel just doesn't quite cut it the same way. And I felt that they really maintained the quality and the excitement and the interest all the way through all three of them. And I just always felt the arc or the progression of Doc's character made sense. It was real, it was organic, it was true. I never felt, this is strange, why are we doing this or something at all? It's all where Doc would go. So I felt good about that.
Excellent, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
roles like Doc and The Martian, My Favorite Martian. How do you prepare for these roles? Because they're like spot on, like really funny.
I sort of get into every role I'm lucky enough to do the same way, whether it's comedy or tragedy, whatever it is. When I first read the script, I try to figure out, what do I know about this guy? You know, what is it about this character that I see in myself? And if I can find that, then I can share that with an audience. And I try to find something that I see in the character that I feel the audience shares as well. You know, say with Doc Brown, he's got this thing about time travel. Everybody, sometime in their lives, thinks, gee, if I could go to the future and see what it's like in 50, 70 years, or I could go to the past and drop in on some period of the past and see what's going on. I mean, we all have that kind of feeling, even in our own lives. Shit, damn it, if I saw that when I was 10 years old, I wouldn't be doing what the hell I'm doing now, you know? Kind of revelations like that. So everybody relates to time travel. And I just wanted to, and Doc demands it. So he goes out and gets a DeLorean and soups it up, and it works. But I just try to find some truth in what I read in the pages. Even if it's just a little moment, I say, that I understand. And I can build around it so that I have a fleshed out character to give. And I love doing that, you know, because when you succeed, it's just such a great rapport with the audiences, you know. Touching back to a question somebody asked a little while ago, Back to the Future's had an enormous impact. I mean, it still goes on. Kids that saw it when it came out in 1985 are grown up, and now they have kids that are seeing it now. And it just keeps going on. Eventually, it'll pass, but it just keeps going. And so many people come up to me as a man from Africa who grew up in some awful circumstances there. He said that he got the inspiration to be an engineer. When he was a kid, he saw a film, he said, I want to be an engineer. And I've had a lot of people over time say how it affected their lives in a deep kind of way. And it's, you know, it's great to have the part of something that has that deep a meaning and importance to people. So that's sort of a general answer to your question. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lloyd. My name is Randy Slaughter. I'm just an Effective Felix Jr., and I have a few questions to ask. One, in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, when you exposed yourself as the toon that killed Eddie Dunley's brother, how did they turn your eyes and left arm into toon parts? Two, how do you react to the late Bob Hoskin? And three, I remember I saw your recent animated short film, Cadaver, the one starring you and Kathy Bates. How did the maker of the film, Jonah Aniston, an amateur filmmaker, convince big-time celebrities such as you and Miss Bates to be in his project? And four...
I'm sorry, I missed three.
Come on.
That's right.
In 2013, you were in an animated short film called Cadaver, where you played as a school cadaver who asked two college girls to go on a cross-country road trip to say one last farewell to his wife. Just the last quote, ring a bell? Eternity is ours. That was the very last line from the short film.
Okay, I'm not sure I'm connected with
Cadaver. The short film is called Cadaver.
Cadaver, right.
And lastly, because you've been in the acting...
Was that an animation or...
Animation. And lastly, because you've been in the acting business for so long, and you're like 77 years old, and you're considered retiring...
Do I consider retiring?
Well, yeah, I mean, you've been in the acting business for years now, and you're 77. You're considered retiring.
But back to your first question.
How they made your eyes and arm into two parts?
I don't really know. I wish I could say I did it. But they, special effects got to work on it afterwards, and they made all that happen.
Well, I remember, there was one sort of in the late 80s, early 90s, before the use of computer graphic animation was made. I mean, we're talking about back in the day when they only did hand-drawn and green screens.
For
all the cartoons.
With Roger Rabbit.
Yes.
Yeah, Roger Rabbit was kind of a homage to the old way of doing cartoons. I mean, now it's electronics and digitalized or whatever. But we shot most of the film in London, and there was a warehouse in London, like an old factory building, 3 or 4 flights up. And I went to visit it a couple of times. And each floor had cubicles on the floor. And there was like trash all over the place, Chinese takeout cartons and all over. And in each of these cubicles would be 1 or 2 cartoonists from all over the world, from Asia, Japan, Australia, US, Europe. And they looked like a kind of a subculture. Their hair was long, they were unshaven, and they're there drawing on these cells each tiny little detail that would be joined with another detail to make one frame of film. A very laborious process, which we don't do now, but that's the way it was done with Roger Rabbit.
And you're going to discuss my other questions, such as the one about the late Bob Hoskin?
Bob Hoskins. I just found out that he passed away a very short time ago, or a few weeks. Bob Hoskins was a wonderful actor. I don't know how many of you have seen his other work. His Bridgefield. Way before Roger Rabbit, he did stunning, breakthrough, incredible films. And he was great to work with. In almost every shot in the show, he had to deal with an animated character. And things were set up like Roger Rabbit. They made an actual Roger Rabbit, about that big, it had weight, and and we would practice this shot with this fake Roger Rabbit. And there was somebody there would show us how to use the muscles when we didn't have the weight of that Roger Rabbit. Bob Hoskins was dealing with Roger Rabbit or some other cartoon day after day after day. And he said he wakes up in the morning and all he sees is Roger Rabbit. It's driving him crazy. But he was a dear man, a wonderful, wonderful guy. And it's sad that he's dying with us.
One more question, so this will be the last one, I'm afraid.
All right, you better make it good. I'm kidding.
I'm so nervous. I'm so honored to meet you, by the way, and I've got one question to ask. There's this movie that came out recently called Food Fight. You may have... Actually, you read it, so...
Food Fights?
Yeah.
Food Fights?
Yeah, he plays a grocer and he plays crazy guy.
You must be Leonard.
You know, that guy. I honestly never watched the movie, but I've seen snippets of it, and I gotta ask you, have you ever seen it? And if so, what'd you think?
I don't think I've seen it. Food Fights. The title's familiar, but I do a fair amount of films through the year. And some of them, when they wrap, nobody will ever hear about them again. Some get into festivals, and so once in a while, one actually gets into the theaters. And so I'm sorry. Another question off the top of your head? Another question?
There's been lots of rumors about a new Back to the Future, and I was wondering, if that were to actually happen, would you be interested in reprising the role or anything?
You betcha. Thank you.